Hey guys, welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be doing Syndra, and this is a much requested video, so strap yourselves in, it's going to be a good one. So for the first part of this video, I'm going to talk about matchups. So in the past, I've kind of broken up matchups down into good matchups, average matchups, bad matchups. But in this video, I want to talk a little bit more about when Syndra is actually good in specific games. So Syndra, believe it or not, is actually one of the few champions in the game that pretty much can win every single matchup if you're very, very good at Syndra, because she's extremely skill shot oriented and she has an insane range compared to most mid laners in the game. So I remember there was an old pro player for Direwolves back in the day who told me, he said, Syndra pretty much can, you can pick me Syndra in a draft. I can win the matchup, but the difference between the matchups doesn't lie in, the 1v1. It lies in all the factors around Syndra. So the effectiveness of Syndra mainly is determined by all these other factors. And these are the enemy team comp's tankiness. If you're versing a very squishy composition, Syndra is a lot more effective because she doesn't shred tanks very well, and she's not very good against bruisers and people who can stack MR. She's also way more effective when your jungler is an early aggressive jungler who can actually utilize your early pressure and early priority to do invades, early objectives, early roams, etc. And then also, she's a lot more effective when the damage spread is completely different between the the jungler, and the mid laner. So if you have an AD jungler like a Lee Sin or a Jarvan or something along these lines, it's very, very good for Syndra because, again, Syndra is not good against champions that stack MR. So these are the main things that kind of determine Syndra's effectiveness within a game. So now let's jump straight into the runes. So I've tested Phase Rush, I've tested, Airy, Comet, Electrocute, all of them. In 90% of games, guys, Electrocute is going to be your go-to rune choice. Yes, it may be a little bit harder to proc Electrocute in some of these range matchups, but I still find that Electrocute makes the most sense for Syndra's identity as a champion. She wants to 100-0 people, she wants to burst people, take those short trades, not long extended trades, and Electrocute makes so much sense. So my go-to rune page is Electrocute, Taste of Blood, either Eyeball Collection or the I forgot what the other one, the Zombie Ward one, and you finish that off with Ravenous Hunter, and then secondary Time Warp Tonic with Biscuits. So in terms of itemization, guys, I always start Corrupting Pot because I always go secondary Time Warp Tonic and Biscuits. And the reason this is, guys, and why, you may see a lot of other Syndras do Sorcery secondary with Mana Flow Ban and Transcendence, and they start Doran's Ring. I just personally find that Corrupting Pot works so well with Syndra because you're trading, a lot of the matchups you'll find yourself that you're trading very heavy, very early. You're trading a lot of HP, using a lot of resources because you're so strong early game. And then generally you'll find yourself basing early for an early Dark Seal. So when I come back out of base with Corrupting Pot and Dark Seal, I feel really, really strong, and it feels coherent with the pace that Syndra wants within a game. So then after Corrupting Pot, I usually base around a Dark Seal or something like that, and then I want to work towards my Ludens, and I generally either go Oblivion Orb into Morello's if I need that healing reduction. Otherwise, I'll go straight into something like a Rabadon's or a Void Staff, something like the standard AP items in a game, or Zhonya's if I need a Zhonya's earlier in the game. Or Banshees if I need that Banshee's Veil, or, that extra MR. Again, it's just pretty much a very standard mage-oriented build path. So what we're going to do now is jump into the first matchup, and this is actually going to be a game versus Diana, and then I'm going to quickly run through the first 10 minutes of another matchup which is actually versus Orianna, where the two early laning phases go completely different. So I think it'll give you a really good perspective on some of the differences between games when you're playing Syndra yourself. So keep watching, guys. Alright, so let's jump into the first game here. So in this game, in terms of formulating your game plan, guys, how do you know what to do with your lane when playing Syndra or in any game? So first of all, you need to understand how your 1v1 at least somewhat operates. So I'm playing Syndra versus Diana, which means that I have the range advantage. And in any matchup when you have range advantage, which is, this is the absolute strength of Syndra, is that you have pretty much range advantage in every matchup, you want to be abusing the fact that you have range advantage by poking with Q and auto attacks as much as you can. And then the next thing you need to be thinking about is a jungle matchup. So the next thing is Kazakh versus Shyvana. Kazakh and Shyvana are both kind of level 1. They want to farm levels 1 to 3. Shyvana even more so, past level 3. But Kazakh can actually gank at level 3. So that's something I'm also keeping in mind here. So then I need to be thinking about, what do I want to do with the wave? Well, I know that I can't really push and harass Diana under the tower, even though she's a melee champion, because she has a lot of all-in threat. If she hits a Q and a dash onto me, she can chase me down the lane with her Conquer and Ignite, and it's not going to be looking good for me. So instead, since I don't feel safe poking her under tower, what's the next option? I either want to keep it in the middle or keep it on my side. So you'll see me this game abuse my range, and then also trying to keep the wave slightly on my side to either create gank setup, and then also eliminate the possibility of Diana chasing me down the lane here. So first thing, guys, what should you see me doing? I should be tethering my Q range as much as I can and kind of oscillating in and out of my Q range. And the reason this is important is it's going to create threat on Diana, and then she's going to have to constantly go back and go forward. And she's going to, it's just kind of like mind games. And the better you are at Syndra, and the most world-class Syndras you'll see, like UCal over in Korea and things like that, and Bjergsen, they'll constantly tether out of their Q range, and it generates so much threat on the opponent. And then what it actually does, it makes them so scared to walk up to hit minions because they know they're going to take a Q to the face. So I missed the first Q here, which I shouldn't have. So ideally now what I want to be doing is I am seeing that he is definitely going for this minion. He's auto-attacked it twice already. He wants to last hit this one. So now I need to be getting in position, ready to Q when my Q's up, and timing it when he goes up to auto-attack this minion, because he actually will stop still for a little bit. And there, bang, I hit my Q. Procky's bone plating as well. Alright, and straight away, what I'm seeing is that Diana is pushing, which is, I'm fine with this. Notice how I'm not queuing the wave, I'm just focusing all my abilities on Diana. I don't really care that she's going to have to push on me, because this is beneficial for me regardless. Because I kind of explained before, she's not going to be able to all-in me down a long lane. And notice here, I'm kind of walking up and playing quite aggressive. You can actually do this on Syndra in a lot of matchups. So when the first minion wave, like the first 3 creeps of the minion wave dies here, like these first 3 creeps, there's actually going to be a brief time before the next minion wave comes out of base, comes out this way, where there's going to be no minions in this area. And a lot of the time, since Syndra's level 1 is so good and you have such a big range advantage, and this is what you want to be constantly abusing when you're playing Syndra, is you can actually walk past the minions and then threaten Q on them constantly. And here I was able to hit a nice little Q in the long lane here before the minion wave comes. And once the minion wave comes, it's very difficult for me to do this, because then I'll take too much damage from minions. So next little thing here, guys, this is very similar to Orianna. Notice how I'm simultaneously walking back here and queuing. So this is something you guys are going to have to practice when you're in practice tool, or playing normal games or something like that. This has to be in your arsenal, and you have to have the capability micro-wise to both queue and walk backwards simultaneously, because this is a huge strength of Syndra. Not only do you have insane range, but you can use your Q while moving, which is exactly like Orianna with the ball. So this is something you always have to look to abuse, and it's super frustrating and obnoxious to verse. And now look, I know she's queuing the minion wave, which is so good for me, and notice how I'm not hitting the wave at all. Because again, this is beneficial for me. The wave being in this area is so good, because now Diana is threatened. She can't jump on me, because then I'm super close to the tower and I can chase her down on the back end of the trade. It's just really, really good for me. So, and a lot of people you verse actually will have no game plan going into a lane, and they actually will have no idea what they're doing. They'll just use their abilities to CS like this, and yeah, they'll get themselves into trouble. So one thing, I know I'm pausing a lot, but this first wave, these first few waves are super important. Notice my positioning here. Notice how I'm standing outside the wave. So the reason being is I want him to make a choice. Do you want to throw your Q onto me like this, or do you want to throw your Q onto these minions? And if I wanted Diana to push, right, let's just say my wave was getting too big and actually pushing towards her, I would actually stand my character in the middle of this wave, making sure she actually Qs the minions at the same time, because then it would thin the wave and potentially stop pushing towards her. But now I know that it's already pushing to me, and if she Qs the wave again, it's going to push even faster, and it may push so fast that I'll have to start using abilities on the wave. So by me standing outside the wave here, and she missed her Q on both the minions and me, because she wasn't sure where to use the Q, she pretty much wasted her Q, and she's not like crashing the wave into tower. Nice, I got my level 2 here. And again, I'm constantly trying to auto-attack as much as I can. But again, I've got to be really, really careful to dodge that Q. Because that Q is going to allow her to dash onto me. And I really don't want her to dash onto me. That's like the biggest thing here that I'm constantly thinking about. And this is a video, guys, even if you're not watching this for Syndra, it's a really great video to watch to how to counter Diana, how to verse Diana in general. So again, the wave's in a really beautiful spot here. I need to be timing my autos when she walks up to get creeps here. And look, let me actually go back. What was my positioning here like? And again, notice how I'm not standing in the minions. I'm standing outside the minions, making her make that choice again, guys. And there's a lot of times where you may ask, why aren't you walking up and queuing? Because a lot of the time, I don't want to walk up and queue and get hit and trade queues. If he hits a queue on me and I hit a queue on him, he can jump onto me and it can be a little bit rough. Yes, I can interrupt it with my E, but it just was something that I wasn't feeling in the specific moment. But a lot of the time, you'll see me walk in to queue after he's used his queue already. So then when he's used, see, notice when he hits queue on me like that, I back up because I don't want to get dashed on and get chunked. Because that's what Diana really wants to do. If you keep it at a range, she'll lose trades. And now she's getting frustrated. I'm auto-attacking a lot. Able to get a nice little trade. Let's go back and dissect this trade. She's getting frustrated. She really doesn't want to miss this cannon. She's in a really precarious position in this portion of the lane. So I don't know what she's trying to do here. She's maybe trying to push it in. And then because she's going for the cannon, it's super obvious. I get a full combo. And notice here, guys, how I very rarely use E in the lane. But I use E in this specific trade. Why do I use E in this specific trade and not earlier on? So as Syndra, your only form of self-peel is your E. So that's why if you watch the best Syndra players in the world, they will always, the majority of the time, they won't use their E for trades. They will only use Qs and auto attacks and play very slow trades. They will only use E if they know they can't get all in by that opponent if they miss their E, or they know they have vision on the jungler and they know they can't get ganked. In this specific instance, I know I'm versing a Shyvana jungle whose early ganks are garbage, and I get a really, really good trade-off on Diana, and I know that she had no Q, so she can't turn back on me here because she doesn't have enough resources to chase me down. If she chose to E on me, I know that it wouldn't even matter because I can still chase her down. So I was happy to use my E there. But it's a really important tip, guys. Making sure you don't waste your E in lane is super important. And now that I get that trade, I thought she was going to reset, so I'm starting to push this wave in to deny her CS. But then she ends up staying on not much HP here. And now I'm leaning to the bot side because I know, notice how I was leaning to the bot side naturally? This is because I know that Shyvana did a bot to top clear, and then Shyvana actually shows on top wave at the moment. And now what I want to be doing is now I kind of feel safe to poke under tower because she has like not many resources at all. I still have a full corrupting pot ticking at the moment, a biscuit and another corrupting pot, and she has no pots whatsoever. And this is also the disadvantage of like having Doran. She has Doran's ring. She's going to have to come back to base now and just buy a refillable anyway. Come back to lane and buy a refillable anyway, which is like pretty not optimal. So now I'm just poking, leaning onto the bot side, knowing that Shyvana's on the top side, and she can't really do anything to me. So I'm just hovering. I can continually to put down the hurt here. So in a lot of my other videos, guys, I've kind of spoken about having a specific objective and tying that objective to an item that you want. But in Syndra matchups, your main objective is to abuse your range as much as you can. Punish the opponent in the early game as much as you can and just get a solid recall for whatever it is, because Syndra is fine basing with a Dark Seal and boots, or just with a an amplifying tomb and a Dark Seal. Because she is such an early oriented champion, rather than focusing on like the grand item that you want, you need to be focusing all your time and energy onto abusing your early portion of the lane and getting a decent reset, given that you don't take TP. So that's pretty much my mindset. And taking a decent TP, guys, taking a decent base, remember, relies on either forcing them out of base early or out of lane early and then shoving the wave like I'm doing here and then resetting, or building a wave and then resetting on a big wave. But because I'm playing Syndra, I want to poke and harass. And so I've been talking too much. I just want to kind of break down what I was doing here. Knowing that I can't get ganked, I still have another corrupting pot like this. Shyvana just can't really do anything to me. I'm able to just kind of keep Diana in lane with no resources, denying her a shit ton of CS, excuse the language, and get a really big lead for myself, just purely 1v1 right now. And this is what you really want to be doing on Syndra. And now I know that she has to base, so I use my corrupting pot just for mana, and I'm trying to get this wave in as much as I can to deny as much CS as I can so I can reset as well. So I I just CS all this as much as I can. Bang, 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 and then recall. And I use I think I use a ward over the wall here because I was sitting on 2 wards and it's really inefficient just to have wards in your inventory like that. So now looking at the CS, look at this. 34 CS to 13. That's already, it's 4 minutes in, you know, so she's pretty bloody behind. So now, so on Syndra, something I recommend, guys, is I always recommend getting at least tier 1 boots early. Because Syndra is so skill shot oriented, she's one of those champions, and I've said this in my previous videos, when you're in a skill shot oriented matchup, getting early boots and early movement speed is super, super useful to be able to maneuver around the lane so you can tether a lot easier and actually land skill shots a lot easier. So that's just a little tip there, guys. So I get my boots and a Dark Seal. Dark Seal is also really good on Syndra because ideally you're going to be getting early kills, which is going to lead to you stacking up that Dark Seal. And notice again, the wave's in a really, really good spot here. And notice how I very rarely use my E here. Look at this trade. I could have easily just QE'd here, but there's 2 reasons I don't. First thing, when I hit my first Q here, I know he's got his bone plating. I can see it around his character like that. So I know I don't really want to burst him through his bone plating. And then secondly, it's really, since the E cooldown is so long, it's a really good ability just to keep up. So if Dinah gets frustrated and just dashes on me, I can easily get her off me by just holding my E. And then it also prevents her from wanting to use her dash onto me because it's just like, she knows she's going to have to deal with that E at some point anyway. So I'm happy with keeping the wave in this position. I'm not spamming my abilities on the wave. I'm happy to keep it in this position. Notice how I'm just chilling. I'm just last hitting the minions, like I'm just leaving it here. Like if Dinah wants to use Q to CS like that, keeping the wave here is so good for me. Put a ward down. And regardless, let's say the wave is, even if, say, it's not frozen, it's still going to end up in a good position because now, if it's not frozen, it's actually going to slow push. And then if I can slow push, this is going to allow me to actually harass Dinah a lot. So either way, it's good. It's either freezing or slow pushing. Now, again, she walks in. She used her dash there. So what was my one mistake there? I know it's very important, very small, but I think it's important to note here. See, she uses her dash and a Q on that minion. So then I should harass. So Q, auto attack, and then what is the problem here? Look how I actually failed to tether appropriately. Look at this. So to look at it one more time, and this is very small micro, but it is important to know. Bang, he goes in. So now the best mid laners, and something you should aspire to practice, you know, maybe it's one of your learning objectives one day, is the distance of your clicks is super important here. Let's just say you're a player who clicks really far like this. Say one clicks here, you click forward, you click backwards. It's going to be very difficult for you to tether effectively because ideally you want to be moving your character very finely. Because what that's going to do is going to allow you to tether more efficiently. But let's just say the better players, what you'll see is their clicks are actually shorter. Because then the speed and the distance between moving your mouse between these 2 clicks is a lot shorter, which is going to result in you being more accurate with your clicks and allow you to tether a lot easier. So notice here, my clicks are actually quite poor. Look, I'm literally looking at my clicks here. Look at this. I'll actually pause it. Look at my first click. My EQs, bang. My first click. Look at one of my clicks over here. I've literally got a click here. When that click should ideally be here. And then I pause it again. And then my other one, you actually missed it, but it was actually over there. So you can tell this distance that I've got, because I'm an old man, you know, I'm a retired pro player, so you can't hate on me too much. That has actually resulted in me allowing, giving Diana the opportunity to kind of close this little gap here. It didn't end up too bad in this specific trade, but again, it's just something to be aware of. And again, this is the reason you hold your E like that, bang, and now I'm 6. I ult ignite, but then he ends up just blowing his flash. Maybe I should have just ulted and held my ignite because knowing that he would flash, but I just wanted to kind of exert a lot of pressure on him to punish him for heavy trading with me like that. And right now I'm actually pinging assist me. And the reason I'm pinging assist me is because I know Dinah's really low and she wants this wave. So I want to dive Dinah right now. So yeah, you can see, guys, with that trade there before, holding your E is so effective against any dash champion, whether it's Zed, Fizz, Diana, you know, there's a range of champions like this who actually want to dive onto you. And then also, conversely, guys, remember, if you're versing a heavy gank-oriented champion like a Kazakh or a Jarvan or a Lee, holding your E can also be super annoying for them to interrupt their dash onto you as well. So I kind of pinging assist me, but my jungler decided to go bot anyway, which is quite frustrating. So all I'm trying to do here is deny Diana as much CS as possible. And then Aurelia is actually pinging that Akali's missing and roaming mid, I think, here. So I actually have to back up a little bit, unfortunately. But you can easily see here, guys, how lane dominant Syndra is. And if left to a 1v1, Syndra is so super lane dominant. And if Kazakh was actually playing around mid, I swear I would have just snowballed way harder this game. Like, I feel like Diana's actually gotten away with a lot. So now she has no flash, no ignite. CS is 28 to 57, so things are going really, really well here for me. And I've got a whole plate on my own. And notice though with Syndra, guys, in a lot of these matchups, it's going to be Syndra's not the best roaming champion. Because you're so lane dominant, your default response is just going to be punish enemy laner, punish, punish, punish. So, and as well, since he's roaming, he's got no mobility. He can get caught in river and things like that. So you generally just want to be dominating your mid lane opponent. And right here, you can't actually see, but I'm typing in chat. I'm timing mid flash, 10:45 mid, 10:45 mid. And then I said free kill mid when I have R. Because I know without R, we don't have enough damage to kill him. Because Diana can be quite tanky with Conqueror, and he's like got a hit in his shield, and he's got Resolve secondary. So I know he's actually quite tanky. I type in no wards. Free kill when I have R, and look what I do here. I pull the wave into the side here, and this is what you can do for when you're playing ultimate lane bully. You know your opponent doesn't have flash. You hold the wave in this position, and then you call for ganks. And I said no wards. I timed his flash, said no wards, and I said wait for my R. My R's in 15 seconds. Kazakh comes anyway, unfortunately. So I try to bait Diana in, and then I use my combo. And then Diana actually 100 to 0s Kazakh, unfortunately. So if he just waited for my ultimate, that was a complete free kill. And then Kazakh was like, oh yeah, my bad. But, you know, it is what it is. He's like, I should have waited for your R. Unfortunate. But you can kind of see where I'm going there. I was keeping the wave in a good position. I'm timing the flash. I'm telling the team what to do. Like, as Syndra, you can't... And this is a huge tip when you're playing Syndra, guys. You can't default to autopilot. Because you get outscaled and because you need to push the tempo of the game, go, 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 dominate your opponent, or at least utilize your early pressure, you will get outscaled and you won't be effective into mid-game. So because Syndra's base stats are good, but his scaling is not good at all. So you need AP to compensate for that scaling, and that's why you really, really require items and gold and to push the pace of the game. And now this is really, really bad, given that Diana's got a kill. Even though I'm like 30 CS up, it's really not good for me. But it's still, like, I still got lane control, which is not too bad. He dashes on me here. Shyvana's kind of coming to visit, but things are going okay here. So now, so that's a bad E. Guys, this is a bad E. I want to kind of show why this is a bad E. Look at this. Why is this a bad E, guys? Even if I hit it, it doesn't do shit. The trade's terrible, regardless. It's way better for me to hold my E here, just in case they jump on me, or set up a gank for someone coming. Even though this doesn't change anything specifically in this moment, it's a very bad habit to get into, is throwing your E blindly like that. It pretty much makes you super vulnerable, and it's just really not good, guys. So now, like, Shyvana's trying to help Diana push in, and then I ping mid. Because I think we can kill these guys. Because, again, we know they have no flashes. They used their ult before. And then I set up my nice little stun here. QE, bang, ult, dead. Nice. And then I kill the minions and then reset. I didn't actually talk about it, guys. I actually went Sork, tier 2 boots, Sork treads early on in this game. This is because I felt like I needed that extra bit of magic pen early. And again, I really like the movement speed in this specific matchup. Because Diana... if he closes the gap and can get on me, it's really awkward. So I really wanted to make sure I can tether appropriately. And because I'm an old man and my tethering's not that good, it kind of helps me a little bit with that. And that's just a personal preference. Easily sitting on tier 1 boots and going Lost Chapter is completely fine. So, again, looking to auto attack, poke as much as I can. Disengage whenever I see someone. That's the benefit of holding E there, is whenever I saw Braum, I can just E them away. Or anyone ganks, I can E them away. And notice how I'm playing quite scared like this. I'm playing defensive now because my jungler's on on red. I don't know where Shyvana is. And my E's down, guys. You need to adapt your gameplay when your E's down. Otherwise, it will get you into big, big trouble. There's no other way to get out of a gank apart from flashing if you don't have E. So when your E is down, play a little bit more defensively. And just play around your cooldowns. It's very important. It's a good habit to get into, guys. And it will save you a lot of strife in your own games. So it's 82 CS to 49, not too bad. So ideally, what I want to be doing as Syndra at the moment now is, again, keeping Dinah pinned in lane, trading onto her, and trying to set up ganks for Kazakhs and try and get a lead 2v2. That's what I really want to do here. And I don't want to let Dinah roam, and I don't want to let her snowball. If I were to roam and start pushing, using my abilities on the wave and roaming, I don't think it's going to end well for me, because I think Dinah can collapse really well since I'm super immobile, and I just don't think it's the way to win right now. I think I need to continue like keeping Dinah in lane and wait to set up ganks onto this Dinah. Because I think between me and Kazakh is getting a lot of kills. Yes, my bot lane's losing, but like we can still kill this guy. Kazakh is quite fed. But my only problem with Kazakh this game, what you'll see, is that, like, notice when a jungler doesn't play around mid, how hard it is for Syndra to push her lead. She needs to be able to exert her pressure. When I'm scared to push up in the lane, and when I know my jungler's not hovering, and when I'm versing these very threat-oriented champions that can dash onto you, it's very hard for Syndra to push her lead. And this is kind of the point I wanted to get across in this video, and why I think Syndra actually is... I'm actually starting to think she's not as good in solo queue as people think she is, purely because I don't think she's reliable. I think if you're not able to push your lead, you just get outscaled way too easily. And I've actually been struggling in solo queue recently with it as well, because I've kind of been autopiloting a lot in games, and if you autopilot a lot on Syndra, then you get punished hardcore, and that's another reason as well. So notice here, like, you know, they're always around mid, using their bot lane priority to clear vision and sit around mid, which is really, really annoying, and not allowing me to kind of push my lead, unfortunately. And I haven't got any blue buffs this game, so it's been really difficult for me to do anything. I can't poke Dinah reliably, nothing, so it's been really tough. And look at this, I think here I get a really good trade. He walks up too far into the minions. Look at this, he walks up too far the minions, and then here, he tries to dash onto me, and then I E him away, and then I get a really good trade, but it doesn't matter because I don't have blue. My jungler's not playing around mid. Their Braum's just sitting mid, and there's nothing I can do. So again, I just have to keep farming and scaling, unfortunately. So I just base, get my lost chapter, and I really want to play around these dragon fights. Playing around these dragon fights is going to be super important for me. Yeah, it's going to be super important for me to be able to kind of utilize my lead, because I need to do something in this early portion of the game. So then I see this fight break out, so I come, Kazakh steals the dragon, and ideally I want to be assassinating the AD carry, so I R, and then I didn't have E. When you're approaching any of these fights, guys, because I didn't have E, ideally though, the ultimate combo is you walk in, let me get another frame here, you walk in, you R, or you can QR, or just R, and then you E after, because all the balls will be scattered on the ground. So the best one would be Q, R, and then you E, and then you follow it with W on the back end if they're not dead. So make sure, and also the benefit of doing R first is that all the surrounding balls will potentially stun everyone else. So it's just a really good habit to get into. And here, I just QR, and I didn't have E, unfortunately. And then I try to get Dinah off me by just running that way. And for some reason, I thought Shyvana was running down, so I temporarily kind of path here. But this was really good for us. We killed 3 of them, which is really, really good. And then, yeah, so that was a really good fight for me. Kind of nearly 100 to 0 dilution, which was nice. So that's ideally in games when you're playing Syndra, guys. You want to be fighting these early dragon fights and early rift scuttles, because again, a lot of the time, yes, you're not a good champion in river skirmishes because you don't have much mobility, but if you have the correct vision that you should have already kind of put down, because you should have like priority in your lane, and you use that vision to kind of safely walk into river, your early fights are nuts, especially when you RE in a team fight. And since you spike so early, you're going to be getting a lot of beneficial fights for you in those fights, because you spike so much earlier than everyone else. And notice here, I saw Nami here, so I was trying to actually bait there a little bit, and then I'm waiting for now Dinah to walk up for that minion, but then I'm like, all right, he's not going to go up for it, so then I just walk up, QE, he gets, and then we just blow his flash there, which is pretty nice. Maybe I could have waited and baited more, but I just didn't think he was actually, I thought he was just going to queue it instead of walking up and autoing it anyway. So I'm really trying to get to my loot and see. I've got decent CS. I'm pretty far ahead in terms of CS, but again, I haven't been able to push my lead as much as I can. So if you are playing in a duo, guys, with, you know, a duo partner, you're playing Syndra, your strategy always needs to be focused around mid jungle and pushing a lead through mid. It's very difficult to play through sides when you have Syndra. It's fine, but you're not utilizing the champion, and a lot of the time it's going to be it's going to actually hinder you in the chances of winning because Syndra's just going to get outclassed. And then I come back mid here. I saw Aurelia, so I do like a max range QE here. Bang. And we get a nice little kill onto this Diana. And now the game's getting kind of out of control. I've gotten 2 like decent kills, or 1 and an assist. And once we start to break this mid tower, like I'm just going to start to be ridiculously strong. And between me and Kazakh, we can pretty much 100 to 0 everyone. And this is also the benefit, guys, of having an AD jungler with an AP mid laner. Since Syndra doesn't do well against MR, they can't just buy a Banshees, or they can't just buy a Hex Drinker, because then they'll just die. Actually, so I want to really talk about this. So here, this is also another downside of Syndra, because, so here, what do I do? I hold my E, but it doesn't really matter because they're on me. And notice that if any champion can kind of close this gap, if they can ever get on top of you, and without you being able to push them away with your E, you're pretty much dead. That's why, you know, if a Kali can jump on you and you're not quick enough with reactions, it can be really, really rough. So here I actually blow flash and my E and I still die. So this was really, really bad for me. This was just not enough threat assessment. I didn't expect Shyvana to come over the wall like that. So that's a bit of a dodgy play for me. And that's something, when you guys play Syndra, guys, you need to be constantly assessing who has the dashes and who has the ability to kind of dive onto you, and they're the people you need to position appropriately for. If you're not assessing them well, what you're going to find is that whenever you're getting to a fight, you're not going to be able to get your damage off because you're going to be busy peeling someone off you. And that's the worst feeling when you're playing Syndra, guys, is when you're using your abilities to peel rather than to 100 to 0 someone. So now, you know, Caitlyn's back mid, so I want to go on the side lane. I got to be really, really, and since Syndra is so immobile, especially when you don't have flash, you got to be super careful on the side lane. So what do I recommend? I recommend constantly looking at mid to see what vision you have. And I use assist me pings on top here for Rift Herald because I want the team to play around me. So I get Rift Scuttle. And actually, as this kind of game goes on, I push the mid, the top wave in, and then I lean. I don't want to stay in the side lane at all. I want to push and move and group with my team because that's where my strengths are. And that's where Syndra's strengths are. They're not in the side lane here. So I just hover mid now to get mid. And now, look at this. I pushed in the side. Diana has to catch the wave at tier 2 because I pushed it in. And now I'm able to kind of group with the team and siege for this mid tower, which was really, really good. And this is much better. I've got, you know, minions around me. I've got people to back me up. I've got people able to peel. So we're able to kind of get the objective like that. So you want to push and move once you're in the mid game. So we end up getting this Rift Herald. So when we end up getting Rift, but they fight like 3v5 here, unfortunately. But I think it's a good fight. I kind of play this fight well on the back end of it. So I assassinate Shyvana first with a max range QE. I don't recommend doing that too much, but I knew I was out of vision, so it was free. Next, we really wanted this Infernal Dragon. Akali starts to dive onto me. And then I walk it, and then I know he's too far. Look at that. I stop his R. Look at this. So that was the first R there. He R1'd. And then look at this. I know that he was going to R2 here. And then I eat his R2 here. That was nuts. I mean, I need to show it one more time because it was so good. Because we would have died. And then look at this. Bang! Got rid of that. And then I nearly 100-0 him. But he gets the heal from the 80 carry, I think. And then we peel a little bit. Kazakh ends up doing a really, really nice juke. And then I try to kill Kali, get another max range EQ with a W with a minion. Bang! He goes onto me, and then I just Q. Get a nice little kill there. So that was a bit of micro kingdom there. So I was pretty happy with that one. So again, my tip for micro and Syndra when you practice Syndra is you need to be practicing the fadeaway Q. So you need to be moving backwards while simultaneously queuing. You need to practice understand like your reaction times with E because you need to be able to E when you see the person dashing in. Secondly, you need to be constantly thinking about your E cooldown. So it's way better to R than E. And notice how like back here, But you can't really see. But what I was doing now, constantly when I was running away, I was constantly looking at my E cooldown. I knew I had 3 seconds. So I was constantly thinking about that. And as soon as he was there, bang, I knew I had E so I could get rid of it. I was already thinking that he was going to do that. So it made it a lot easier for me to kind of make that play. So you need to always be thinking about your E cooldown, because that will also help you in fights. And then just positioning. You need to be really focused on your positioning and making sure that you're not going to be able to get dived on by people, because, you know, getting dove on as Syndra feels bad, man. So again, I go to the side lane. So this is the other tip. On the way to the side lane, if your jungler's not in position to hover, because I actually say hover me topside to the jungler. If the jungler's not in position to hover you, just get Krugs like this. So I actually just farm Krugs in the meantime, waiting for my jungle to clear from bot to top. And then Kazakh now is hovering me, and look how much better this is. So I can shove all the way in. And now Kazakh is hovering me, so I push, get a nice little bit of chunk off. I get a nice little blue buff, and then we start to bait this Baron. So that's a lot better than just grouping mid, because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't have got those Krugs, I wouldn't have got those 2 or 3 waves, and I would have been way further behind. You need to farm side lanes on Syndra, even though you're immobile. Just communicate with your jungler. So the problem with this fight here, guys, when you're playing these fights, this is the perfect example. If you use all your abilities on the front line and they don't die, majority of the time it's going to be a bad fight. I thought we could 100-0 this guy before the team would back him up, but little do we know, their team was literally right behind him. I used my QE and everything, and what do we see? They close the gap straight away, and I don't have E, so what happens to me? I get absolutely melted. And they kind of get onto me on the back line, and they end up killing me. So that is I think that was really interesting to look at, because that shows if you're not using your RE to go through the whole team and kind of stop the people from dashing onto you, you're going to die. And then secondly, if you want to use your big combo, you have to be willing, you have to know that it's going to be 100-0 burst kill. Otherwise, it's not going to be looking good for you in that fight. In this game, I actually end up going Banshee's Veil secondary, because they have an Akali, they have a Diana, they have a Shyvana, AP Shyvana, so that MR is coming in handy a lot. And then also, I think for self-peel, it's a really good item. And then, again, what happens here? So I come out of base here, get a nice little QE. He walks up too far, then I just ult him, and then I get a nice little Q on him, or E on him, sorry. So just standard gameplay here, nothing too special. And then we end up getting Baron, I believe. Yeah, we end up getting Baron. And that's pretty much the game. After this Baron is so free, we just group and kind of push down mid. I think we end up getting Infernal Drag in the Infernal Soul, and we end up winning. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the first 10 minutes quickly of another matchup, of an Orianna matchup, just to talk about a few different things. And then, because I think it will make a lot more sense, because this range versus melee is played a little bit differently, so stay tuned, guys. So this matchup's very bread and butter. You see this pretty much every single season. I think it's a really good one to understand, and it can go both ways. And it's a very skill-reliant matchup, but it's obviously slightly favored to Syndra, because you have a bit of that range advantage and that early spiking. So again, what you want to be doing is focusing a lot of your early damage onto the Orianna. If Orianna is using her abilities on the wave, then you can just ignore this wave and just Q, constantly Q. My biggest piece of advice for this matchup is, again, the same thing. Whenever you see her auto attack, you want to be queuing, and because your Q cooldown is so low and your early damage is so high, you don't want to give Orianna a free lane in the early game. You want to be punishing her as much as you can. So let's see how this plays out. I got my first Q. She Qs through the whole minion wave, so what do? I just Q her. Because if you want to queue the minion wave, then, you know, I'm gonna queue you. Other thing here, guys. I failed the micro here, but what I was trying to do, I know now that the ball's here. And I know that, and she knows that I want to walk up to go for a Q. So look what happens. I walk up, I get the Q. So now it's pretty obvious what Orianna's going to do, right? It's pretty obvious that she's going to throw the ball this way. So what if a really good player should do now is you should be tethering this way. I mean, going in and out. Not this way, obviously, because that's going to reduce your chances of dodging. And you want to be faking. You want to be faking walking forward, but then actually shimmy and walk back. What do I actually do? What I try to do is I try to go back and forward like this. I'm trying to go back and forward, but it just still clips me. So you need to be kind of consciously thinking where Ori is going to throw the ball, and then try and fake your dodge direction by faking backwards and forwards. And notice here, again, I know that she wants to go this way, so notice how I'm constantly going this direction as well. So I don't get hit by that one. It's really good. Now she's walked up too far. Get another nice little Q auto. Notice here, guys, I always walk up. When she uses her Q, I know her Q cooldown is down. So then I know I can walk up safely and Q auto. Look at this. Q auto. And then back up. She gets a nice little poke off. But I know that I'm stronger. I'm willing to take these trades. Because Orianna taking these trades is like... It may be a little bit even level 1, but level 2 and level 3 Syndra completely dominate. So don't be like kind of put off by trading HP early levels. And again, breaking down this little trade here. And again, I know that Syndra wants to, Ori wants to throw her ball like this. So what do? Look. I walk really far this way so the ball won't reach. And then I'm also simultaneously trying to close the gap into her because I know that I'm going to hit level 2 soon and I want to start getting some really serious trade off onto her. And I know that if she used her Q, her Q would be down. So I'm constantly poking, constantly harassing. If she uses Q on the wave like this, I'm like, all right, you can do that. Your wave's going to be in a really awkward position because if the wave is anywhere in this area, it's beneficial for me because level 2, she's not going to be able to walk up without taking a huge trade to the head. Ideally, if you're Orianna, you should actually... I would actually recommend keeping it on this side because you'll see why. You'll see why. So now she's using her abilities on the wave too much, so then she has to cop all this trade for me, and now she has to pretty much use all her corrupting pots, and I've only used one, and I'm pretty much full HP. I have missed a lot of CS. That's the downside of playing like I have so far. If I was a better player, I'd be able to see CS simultaneously. But this is not a matchup. I'm actually not that good at Syndra, but I kind of know what I need to do. I can't execute on it, so I need more practice on it. And again, now look at this. I have pretty much full lane control. I have a whole biscuit and 2 whole corrupting pots on top of her, which is going really, really well. The wave's in a decent spot. And notice how I'm not using my abilities on the wave. I'm just chilling. I'm happy with the wave state. Again, if it's not frozen, it's going to be slow pushing, and slow pushing is good because that's going to give you more room to do some heavy trades. And notice that little shimmy there. I need to point that out because it is important to note. So now I know she knows that I'm walking back and forth like this, right? She knows that I want to get in range. So what does that mean? She's preparing and knowing that she's going to throw her ball soon. So I'm just constantly faking going back and forward. And then again, she falls for my little bait and she uses a Q, which means I can kind of walk up aggressive. And she has to give me create space. She has to kind of respect my range. She's using an E on herself. This is not good. And now what I'm thinking, I remember thinking here, there's a lot of low minions, but this cannon was also low. So I did want to kind of punish her for going this cannon, but there was just so many low minions that I need to get my own first. So then I've got this huge wave. So now I've got a really big decision. A really big decision here, guys. In hindsight, since I was able to build such a big wave, I should actually just reset. I should reset here. I swear I should back up, go over here, and just buy a Dark Seal. What this is going to do is it's going to it's going to buy a lot of time, which means, because I don't have teleport and she does, so it's going to give me a full free reset. She's going to spend all this time getting this wave, and then reset, and then teleport back. Then it's going to blow her teleport early on in the lane. She's only going to pretty much be able to afford a Dark Seal. Then it's Dark Seal versus Dark Seal. She has no teleport. I have Ignite advantage, and then I'm in a very favorable position. I choose to stay instead, which is the other option, and harass her under the tower. The only problem with this play is that I knew that consciously I was versing a Nidalee jungle, so their ganks aren't that effective. But the only problem with this is that this doesn't really give me an advantage too much because, yes, she misses some CS, but Nidalee can come in this specific example because Rengar ends up showing bot. What should actually be happening here is that Rengar should be hovering mid or invading this jungle if he knows these jungle camps are up, but he goes bot instead. And when Rengar shows bot, straight away he goes for a gank bot, then Nidalee now knows it's safe to go for a gank mid without getting counter ganked. If Rengar didn't show on the map, then it probably would have been a lot scarier for them to go for a gank. So they go for a gank here. I should have dodged this spear. If I dodge this spear, it's a lot better. But it's not too bad because I know that there's not much kill threat. So I use my corrupting pot. I dodge this spear. Then Rengar comes with like dick all HP. And then we end up getting a kill. I get blue buff, which is good for me. But again, it could have just gone a lot better. But you can kind of see how, you know, there's a fork in the road at this early part in the lane. There was a fork in the road in the early part of this lane where I could have based and got a free reset, or I could have stayed and harassed under tower. And so I think the correct decision, if I have an aggressive early game jungler who wants to use my early pressure to invade or do things like that, or kind of dive mid or something, I should have stayed. But given my jungler was ganking bot, given that I have a Rengar, and given that he has TP and I have Ignite, if you have any ability to kind of get a free reset versus and force a TP out of someone, you should take it. So I actually think I went down the wrong fork in the road in this specific example. So then I just try and get it in. The good thing about this, I get a blue buff, which is nice. And he ends up staying at 27 CS to 17, so I've got a pretty big lead, which is really good. He TP'd back with that and got a Doran's and a Darksteel, which I think is bad for Ori because she's not getting towards her core items, which is what you really want to do. I end up deciding to go Sork Boots. And again, because it's a very skill shot oriented matchup, this is my personal preference. If you want to build Darksteel, Amplifying Tomb, and Tier 1 Boots or something like that, that's completely fine. But this is just my personal preference. So I recommend for you guys to try this in your own games. And again, ideally, notice how I'm not hard pushing here. I'm not hard pushing and use my abilities on the wave because I want it to stay in the middle. Because staying in the middle will allow me to give me more room to chase down Orianna and walk past the minion wave to poke her. Because I know if I push this wave, she's just going to catch it under the tower, and then the wave's not big enough for me to poke her under tower regardless. So keeping it in the middle as much as I can is really beneficial for Syndra in this matchup. Obviously, you know, if it's slow pushing, it's fine as well. Slow pushing is also good, which what it will do by keeping it in the middle and last hitting anyway. And notice look how I'm positioning. I'm kind of constantly positioning behind the wave. And now I ping Nidalee's in this side bush. So then I ping that, so Pyke's on the way for a counter gank here, which is really good. So I'm just getting Qs off. I know I'm hitting level 6 soon, so this fight's really good. Now I'm standing towards that side, trading aggressively, trying to get Nidalee to come into me. And this is what Syndra wants. This is the type of game that you want as Syndra. You want to be able to you want to be pushing the pace of the game. You want to be taking these early 2v2 mid jungle fights. You want to be putting on the pressure and taking these fights. And this game is much, much better. I've got an AD jungler who's, you know, people hovering me mid. I'm able to play quite aggressively. I've got 2 early kills now because of it. And things are going quite good. So this is a lot more of what you really want to be doing when you're playing Syndra. So now I just get another quick reset. Because again, I built that huge wave, and now this time instead of poking, and I know that poking's not really going to do anything because I have so much gold. I'd rather just take the free recall here. Reset my corrupting pot, get 2 amplifying tombs. So now I could easily freeze this wave, and so my option here was freeze this wave and just pull it into the side and kind of keep it outside my tower, or push and help my team. But because I see my team invading the red buff here, they're both on the Pyke and the Rengar were invading the red. I wanted to kind of push and exert some pressure on the map here. So I don't really know what's going to happen, but I knew they were invading, so it's just a good habit to get into, is push when you see your team invading, because if a fight breaks out, you're going to be able to get there first. So just fast forwarding a little bit. I kind of just want to show you the premise of this lane, how it's a little different. Notice again how I'm walking past the wave, because I know that if Orianna walks up too far and uses her Q on the minions like this, she's not going to have a Q to poke me, which means I can walk up and take an aggressive trade like this. So then I walk up, get a nice little combo, and then back up. And notice these trades are going so well for me. And Ori has actually swapped to heal, so that's something I needed to take into account. If she didn't have heal, I'd actually nearly go for an all-in. But she actually swapped to heal because she took Spellbook. So when you're playing these matchups though, sometimes it can be a little hard to just pressure them under tower constantly. So you need to be thinking about what your jungler wants to do and how the side lanes are going. In hindsight, in this specific game, I should actually be using my wards deeper and leaning onto sides rather than poke Orianna under tower, because she's already low. I'm already getting pressure. I can't kill Orianna tower. I blow her heal 1v1, which is good. But again, this is not really pushing my lead super hard. I should be impacting the map. And the only reason I actually chose to do this was because I saw Pyke roaming top. And I would have went bot, but Pyke's top, so I can't go bot. So unfortunately, I chose to just stay in mid. But you know, in terms of being like the optimal decision, really what you want to be doing is using your pressure to now work with your jungler to, you know, impact the jungle or kill the jungler or roam onto sides or something like that if you can't kill mid. But obviously if you can dive and kill mid, then that should be the play. Because I'm already kind of keeping him pinned under tower regardless. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory here, guys. Again, just constantly poking him out, getting another reset, working towards my lost chapter. So you can kind of see the premise of this video. And now I push mid here and I start to roam onto sides eventually. So I just kind of wanted to show you the difference in the lane. and how, you know, both these lane matchups are like winning. I can take good trades, but the extent of how much you can push lead and how much pressure you can exert on the map very much depends on everything else. The jungler, what the jungler's doing, the bot lane matchup, what are the sides doing? Are they playing around mid, etc., etc. I kind of wanted to just show that. So, guys, in your own games with Syndra, take into account the draft. Like, yes, Syndra's a very good blind pick because of this reason, but again, you may struggle sometimes climbing with Syndra because if you don't push your early lead, you're just going to get outscaled. So, hope you enjoy the video, guys. It's bloody hot in my room right now. I'm actually working up a bit of a sweat, getting quite animated. But thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave them in the Discord or the comments below. Cheers. Thanks for watching.